This audiovisual presentation aims to highlight some of the important concepts of nonverbal communication and the importance of being aware of our own body language traits and how they can impact on the effectiveness of our communication. The importance of nonverbal communication is clear, given that 70 to 90% of our total communication is made up of nonverbal communication. Taking the time to analyse our own body language and speech characteristics can help us gain knowledge of how our audience perceives the message being conveyed and identify areas needing improvement. Body language includes posture, eye contact, gestures, touch, and even how we use space. In the course textbook, Yunsen tells us that gestures are referred to as tells because they are said to reveal a person's true state of mind. The dictionary defines a gesture as a movement or position of the hand, arm, body, head, or face that is expressive of an idea, opinion, or emotion. We use eye contact and touch regularly when we make our first contact with someone, and it is often this first eye contact and touch, by way of a handshake, that leaves a lasting impression, and in some cases may be the foundation of a lasting business relationship. The distance that we stand from someone when engaging in conversation is another body language indicator. Recently, I spoke with a local store manager who insisted on standing very close to me while speaking to me. Personally, I found this to be a little bit confronting, and to me it made a clear expression of the desire for dominance, and by taking a half step backwards into a more comfortable position, my body language could have suggested submission. As this illustration suggests, a person's stance can convey a variety of messages or attitudes, and so developing the ability to interpret body language and adapt our communication accordingly is a valuable skill. If our audience shows signs of disinterest or their body language suggests they're not open to listening, we need to gain their trust and interest in order for the communication to be successful. If their body language suggests boredom, we need to examine our communication style and content, as it could be made up of jargon that is not familiar to the audience, or it could be just plain boring and it needs to be reconsidered. Semiotics is the science of the emotional and psychological impact of signs and appearances. So the way we dress and accessorize also contribute to our nonverbal communication. The term power dressing refers to a particular style of attire worn in business that seems to make people appear more powerful and is a good example of semiotics. If we work in a corporate environment but choose to dress casually, it may suggest poor team involvement and a lack of ambition and interest in the role. Or it could be seen as a desire to express individuality or to belong to a type of a subgroup away from the general norms of dress code. Facial expression forms a large part of nonverbal communication, and they say a smile is worth 1,000 words, and this may well be true. Smiling while communicating can relieve a stressful situation, as well as gaining the confidence and support of our audience. Our facial expression reveals feelings that we don't always intend to communicate, but have become habitual, and so we need to be aware of what our facial expressions are communicating. Apart from a few very serious occasions or the delivery of sad news, there aren't too many communications that won't benefit from the addition of a smile. Learning to interpret the facial expressions of our audience provides instant feedback to our communication. It's not what you say, it's how you say it, and according to some sources, the voice in particular, the tone, pitch, and speed, is more influential on credibility than facial expression. It's the paralinguistics, or the properties of the voice, that add meaning to a message. Now, we can use italics, underlining and bold type to emphasize words in written text, but in oral communication we must use the tone, volume and pitch to place emphasis. Example, if asking a colleague how many copies they require of a document, the tone is even with a slight upwards inflection. How many? But when clarifying how many resignations there have been because of pay cuts, we emphasise to express our shock. How many? The volume of speech can be an indicator of confidence or even arrogance, as with a loud, clear voice, whereas low volume can indicate uncertainty or even a lack of confidence. And there are also cultural variations with regard to volume that need to be considered in communicating. A higher pitch can convey enthusiasm, excitement, or familiarity, and the inflection upwards of voice indicates a question or the invitation for a response needed. Yunsen suggests that the continual use of upwards voice inflection can indicate immaturity or a lack of confidence. Just as facial expression tells us of a person's emotional state, the voice can also reveal much. It can reveal emotion, age, educational status, geographic origin, which would be determined by the accent, and it can also be an indicator of socioeconomic status. The tone can also tell us lots, and a flat, dull tone can indicate boredom or disengagement, and conversely a high-pitched, fast-paced voice conveys excitement, enthusiasm, and will most likely be successful if persuasion is needed. So positive words alone aren't enough if the voice doesn't match. And just as speech can be effective, so can silence. And knowing when to pause in communication is a vital skill. That concludes this presentation. I hope you've enjoyed it and thank you for listening.